Well, it has finally happened. Adobe is being sued by the U.S. government for its business practices. According to reports, the government says Adobe has been hiding expensive fees and making it very hard for people to cancel the subscriptions that they were forced to sign up under if they wanted to use Adobe software. Reporting from The Verge states, the U.S. government is accusing Adobe of hiding the terms of its annual and monthly plans in the fine print instead of making the terms obvious to people. When you try to cancel, Adobe allegedly puts you through, quote,
an onerous and complicated process.
What is this? Not only that, they were charged an early cancellation fee. See, I don't keep up with this, so I didn't know that y'all were paying cancellation fees for a Photoshop program. You've entered into a contract where you have to pay them even if you decide to walk away from a program that you don't even own. What is this? I gotta pay to get in and I gotta pay to get out? Who y'all think y'all is? A cable company? What's wrong with y'all? The longer you're paying for a subscription, the more money they make, of course. You'll be essentially paying them much more money over time than you would if they allowed you to simply purchase the freaking program. Now, you guys may not know, but my intro to Adobe was Photoshop, but my absolute favorite Adobe program ever from years and years ago was Adobe Live Motion. Before coding took over, the animation on websites was usually created using Flash. There used to be entire animated websites using Flash, y'all. If you're not old enough, you may not know this. I was well on my way to mastering Adobe Live Motion. I purchased actual physical books and everything. And then the inevitable happened. Adobe bought Macromedia in 2005. So we're talking about a long time ago. If you don't remember any of this, it's not important. Just know that Macromedia and Adobe were big names in the field of programs meant to create effective websites, okay? After Adobe acquired Macromedia, Adobe seemed to prefer Macromedia's Flash program over their own homegrown Live Motion program. Like, what are y'all doing? Live Motion was far more intuitive for beginners, in my opinion, and it was easier, again, in my opinion, to create finished projects for people who weren't already super advanced Flash learners. I'm saying all of this to let you know that I had a long relationship with Adobe products until they switched to that subscription only model around 2011, 2012. For me, it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. Nope, none of that made sense to me, and so I didn't do it. I will only look at this from my perspective and the perspective of other consumers. I don't care what a billion-dollar corporation's interests are. It's not my concern. According to the lawsuit, Adobe earned over $7 billion in subscription-based revenue in 2019. By 2023, that number was over
$14.22 billion.
Just from the subscriptions. So I'm not going to come up with reasons why their decision makes perfect sense for them. If the company is looking out for themselves and I too decide to view this from the company's perspective, then who's looking out for me? Who's looking out for my best interests? I wouldn't be surprised if they factored these kinds of lawsuits into their business model. So no, I don't really want to read comments under this video saying, well,
you've got to look at this from their perspective.
No, I don't and I won't. And if you can pay the fee, congratulations to you. Send a tip to my PayPal since you got it like that. But that doesn't make what Adobe is accused of any less slimy. The Justice Department clearly sees that there's a problem. So, getting back to the news, the Justice Department says that since at least 2019, the annual plan included an early cancellation fee that was calculated at, quote, 50% of the remaining contract obligations. That means Adobe was allegedly charging people 50% of the total monthly charges for the remaining months on the contract. And they had to pay it in a lump sum. So, okay. So you've made it impossible for them to use your program any other way but signing up through this subscription model. Okay. This is what Adobe expected you to pay yearly if they charged you $54.99 a month. That's $659.88 let's say you cancel and you have 5 months left. This is what Adobe was expecting from you for the rest of that year. And this is 50% of that amount. So this is what you have to pay them if you want to walk out the door. And it's not like they let you pay it off in increments. They wanted all of their cash, period. Let's say you wanted to pay monthly without a cancellation fee. You didn't want to have to worry about that. Okay, so this is what you'll pay if you stay with them for a year. You'd have to pay them almost $1,000. Imagine paying a company $1,000 a year for a piece of software that you don't even own. Like, you can't listen. No. No, ma'am. And please don't run out of storage. I would be surprised if you had to pay more for that too. And so if you go over your allotted amount, you will have to pay more probably. The Justice Department says Adobe's business practices incentivizes them to make it as difficult as possible to leave. And if you successfully cancel, they essentially penalize you by hitting your card with a fee for half of what they would have gotten had you stayed. I mean, what in the world? There were specific names listed in the lawsuit filed on June 17th. Maninder Sawhney is the senior VP of Digital Go-to-Market and Sales. The government says he, quote,
formulated, controlled, had the authority to control, or participated in
the acts allegedly in the complaint. David Wadhwani is the president of Digital Media Business, who reports to the CEO directly. He, too, is accused of formulating and having the authority to control Adobe's alleged wrongful business practices. There are at least 2 other names, I'm guessing, that were redacted from this portion of the lawsuit. You can read the 26-page complaint at the FTC's website, that's ftc.gov, which is linked in the description below. It's about time somebody with authority did something, okay? There have allegedly been a massive amount of complaints online about Adobe over the years. So, what do you think is going on? Do you think this is going to mean anything to Adobe in the long run? Do you think they have already factored in this type of situation and they've already set that money aside for whatever big settlement that's going to happen where, you know, you'll be eligible for 35 cents, $2.32, $3.46, $6.82, a whopping $10.32 for the people who have paid a lot over the years. You might get that depending on what the settlement is. So tell me how you feel below. Remember, keep the nonsense to a minimum. I don't want to hear anybody up in here riding to the rescue of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. There is a problem here, or else the U.S. Justice Department would not have stepped in. Okay, so that's not up for debate. What is up for debate is what you think is going to happen. Do you think the United States is serious about going after Adobe, or are they just trying to scare them to try to get a settlement so they can parade it around in the press and make it seem like they're doing something? Leave a comment below.